660. I am your host, Andrew,
Hey guys, and I'm Danny.
and this is your source for tech, gaming, and entertainment news. Today, we're going to be talking about some exciting things that we saw this week. X Call of Duty Black Ops dev got some stuff going on. User creators and Nintendo, because Nintendo doesn't like anything that is against their stuff. Hideo Kojima connecting worlds. We'll talk about that as well. And Daniela, what is going on with you? What's happening?
Oh my god, so much. I'm so tired of traveling for work right now. And it's not even fun work. I mean, I'm trying to make it fun, but I'm like, I didn't realize how incredibly tan I've got, which makes it seem like I'm hanging out in the beach. I'm not. I'm just working outside a lot. I'm like, why do I look so orangey? No, it's just the sun.
You're out in the sun. You're doing the sun thing.
It is, and like obviously I'm not putting enough sunscreen on. But it's been okay. It's been a whirlwind, and I have like one more trip, and then I have these long hours. Oh, the struggle of having a 9 to 5.
Right. No, but you look great. You look great. So shout outs to that. So what's going on? So how do you feel about the gaming news this week before we get into it?
It's on the topic that we don't really talk too much about. It's kind of depressing. There's so
Oh my
many
god.
layoffs. It is. It is. It's not on our docket, but it's like there's stuff to be excited about, and I love. But at the same time, it's hard to just like kind of ignore that and enjoy it. Where you have all of these studios, and it's not even just gaming. It's just like out there in the tech world business of things, of these layoffs are just coming one after the other, and it just doesn't stop. Like, I was watching that clip of the YouTube music people who got laid off. I'm so bad. We're on YouTube right now. But anyways, um
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
just the way that they're finding out, they're trying to unionize. I don't know the whole story about it, but it's not even just them. It's all the studios. It's Sony. It's it's everywhere, and it's kind of just it's a struggle. It's a struggle for people to start 2024 that way. So that's what I'm thinking about the news, because I feel like, yeah, there's some great things happening, but then there's also some really sad things happening.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not surprised that you're actually talking about this because it's like as much as I wanted to kind of like briefly mention it, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that you're actually talking about it. And I know it's really tough, and as I've shared with you, I've experienced that, personally, in the past. It's just one of those things where you get blindsided, with those things, and it's like, what are you going to do? And you have to prepare way in advance to make sure that your family is going to be okay. So there's nothing but empathy, compassion, prayers when it comes to individuals who are really trying to figure out what's the next thing for them and their families as it relates to employment and the gaming industry. So yeah. So any other thoughts on that?
I really hope they all land on their feet and they find, somewhere to call home for just work, because it's a struggle out there to be without one.
Absolutely.
And I hope they got
Absolutely.
severance packages or something to hold them over until they can, get back on their feet. But then I think overall in the tech and gaming industry, I think it's also a good wake up call that you cannot rely on what you're doing. Like, you have to expand your horizons and see what skills that you have that can be implemented, not just in gaming, not just in tech, in movies, in journalism, in anything, and just kind of marketing yourself that way. So I really hope the best for those people.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, so when it comes to the news of this week, we saw a couple of things. I definitely wanted to make sure I watched the Hideo Kojima documentary. That one was amazing. We'll talk about that later. But at the top of the news, things that I saw, the Call of Duty Black Ops dev David Vonderhaar reemerges with new first-person co-op game. I think that is one of the most exciting news for those individuals who love co-op games as well as FPS titles. So what what's how you feeling about that?
I'm not sure. I mean, he's been with them for a long time. I think it's at 18 years. So I feel like when somebody has been doing a certain type of game and then they get that freedom to try something else, um, it expands their horizons to be creative. So I hope he really takes advantage of that and this opportunity to be able to do something with it.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where when I look at the news with this particular title, it says the remote first Los Angeles-based studio called Bullet Farm is backed by NetEase and on the hunt for staff. It's working on an ambitious new AAA. Okay, I know we were talking about that recently. As far as like what's AAA, what isn't AAA. So it's a new AAA game set in an original universe with an emphasis on cooperative gameplay, right? Didn't say anything about competitive or anything like that. So we'll have to see if that changes in the future. This unannounced new game is built on Unreal Engine 5 and will craft a more intimate and relatable experience while offering a fresh take on first person gameplay. So for me, I'm always looking for these type of experiences, and I'm excited that someone with that much experience in the FPS world is actually embarking on a new journey and a good partnership that should serve them, in a really really good way. So we'll have to see, what's happening with that.
We'll see. It's always exciting to get new games, and hopefully is well received.
Yeah, for sure. Next thing that is see here in the same article, it says NetEase Games is fully dedicated to giving Bullet Farm the resources and support required to build this new first-person experience. And I did see some other things here, as you mentioned earlier. Activision-owned company. He was part of the Activision world as a design director for 18 years, as you mentioned, and worked on 8 Call of Duty games. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this is going to be. I think so. So even with the thumbnail, I think I'm going to have something that says big deal, question mark. I think that this is going to be a very big deal for individuals who are excited about FPS experiences. A big deal for individuals who are looking for something fresh, something different. And I know we've seen a lot of cookie cutter things for the individuals in the Call of Duty universe for quite some time. So we're going to see how that plays out. When they launch and when they start giving previews and demos and testing phases and things of that nature. So it should be exciting to see what they're going to do with that. Any other thoughts on this?
No, just sit back and wait and see what he comes up with.
100%, 100%. So Nintendo, okay. I'm gonna hand this off to you first because we know how we talk about Nintendo. So what is your take on Nintendo as a company, and then we can get right into this particular bit of news that we saw for them.
So Nintendo has always been its own thing. We've like stated this so many times that Nintendo's gonna do what Nintendo's gonna do, but it's always so they're always been so protective over their copyrights, over their IPs, over all of their games forever.
Right.
So um, this isn't exactly new. I mean, even back with like the 3DS, and I believe it was with R4, I believe was a little chip that you can install emulators on to play on your DS, on your 3DS, and you can get all of these things. It's just that there were websites that were dedicated to it. There's been several websites, and I'm pretty sure Nintendo has sued them. Obviously, the one because those websites were taken down. So this is just another one. And I'm not mad about it. Like I understand that people are struggling financially and they'll find means that they can play a game that they really enjoy to get it for free, but it's still pirating. And I have a personal feeling that I can't say that I would actively promote it in any way. But I'm not surprised that they're being shut down, that they were sued, and they had to pay these repercussions of $2.4 million. However, I think like when it comes, $2.4 million is a lot of money, but I feel that Nintendo definitely could have gone for more and probably won.
I agree. I'm surprised it was this low, actually.
right? Like
I'm
they could have
surprised.
gone for $20.4 million. They could have gone for $200.4 million. They could have gone for so much more. But that's still a hefty price tag for somebody.
Okay, so I have theories there. I don't know if they're, of course, they're theories. That's what they are. So they're getting ready to launch a new console. There's news that they don't want in the cycle. So rather than keeping this news in a cycle for an extended period of time with the next version of their console that's going to come out, did they say this year or rumored this year? Right?
I'm
If
not too sure.
if that's the case, right? Let's just say if that's the case that the console would launch for Nintendo this year. What you don't want in the news cycle is something like this. So I'm not surprised that it got shut down that quickly. From what I do understand with this particular bit of news is that they did get a lawyer. The Yuzu folks, they did get a lawyer very recently to try to see how this was going to pan out for them. And Nintendo shuts down every single thing that infringes on Nintendo. So I don't think anyone should be surprised by this particular situation. But I do agree with you. 2.4 million is pretty low for Nintendo.
It is. I think so. They could be
Yeah,
out there just making examples of every person left and right. Um, but in the terms of emulators, there's only one thing before somebody calls me out on this for like digging out my history and my past and stuff. I have created emulators, but of games I already purchased and owned. And the only reason why I did is I own it. I did not distribute the emulator to anybody else. I wanted to
right.
play a Sega CD game, and I didn't have my Sega CD, and I didn't have the stuff to be able to play the retro game. So yes, I created an emulator out of it to play it on my PC. But I didn't sell it to anybody. I didn't let anybody like download it. It was just for me, and I own the actual copy. To
Yeah,
me,
I mean,
I
even
think it's still a gray area, but I think if you're using it for your personal use and you bought it, you legitimately bought it. To me, I think that's okay.
it's still a gray area because of like the rules that surrounds it depending on where you live,
Yeah,
your country
that's
and territory and
true.
stuff like that. So there's that, but I'm not surprised, with this particular deal. I remember when I first got the Xbox, of course enjoying it for what it was, and then after a while, I did decide to modify it in some capacity, to do things that it wasn't necessarily designed to do when it first got out of the box, right? Of course, all of the devs usually tinker with these systems, these handhelds when they come out, for them to do the things that we see them do, right? Whether it's the Switch or the Xbox and things of that nature. So I think that there's individuals who are going to continue doing these things, right? Regardless of the penalties. Like even when you see with the Gary Bowser situation, I believe, with that went really, really bad, right? In terms of how much, that is costing this person, because, they decided to tinker with, the stuff related to Nintendo. So it's not something that I would recommend, especially how Nintendo approaches it. If you're trying to build a business on the back of Nintendo, they're not going to allow it. So just be mindful of that if you decide to go in this direction, right? So it is fun. It is nice to revisit, some of the things, some of the games and consoles that can easily fit on like a hard drive now because we're getting terabytes of data, right, to play all these games or whatever. But it's not something that I would recommend because any company that sees that you're doing that, they're going to shut you down. And Nintendo, they're known to do that as soon as they see it. So just be mindful of that. Any additional thoughts here?
No, I think user creators just got off a little bit easy with that.
Yeah, 2.4 million is pretty low, for sure. So, but shout outs to Nintendo, of course. Everything that they do. I saw a post earlier. They were showing some collaboration between Toad and Mario, just going through a particular level. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, this game, could have come out at any particular year, and we're still going to play Nintendo games because Nintendo is that awesome, right? So shout outs to them for continuing to do the things that they do and they're in their own world when it comes to game development and game distribution. So there's that. Next thing that we got is X, right? Of course, Twitter adds live video to Spaces instead of bringing back Periscope. How do you feel about that?
I believe Elon did bring that up, that that was going to be something that was coming to Spaces this year. I completely forgot that Periscope existed or that it was even tied to Twitter, X,
Okay.
anything like that. But it kind of just makes sense. I mean, they added the whole live streaming to Twitter, so adding video to Spaces kind of seemed like an evolution for Spaces, which I believe that we'll see it improve and get better, because I think the features now is pretty basic, kind of just like you have the main, whoever started it, the main host, you just have their video feed, not their co-host or anything like that. You just have little chat bubbles. I feel that's going to be changing to something that's kind of similar to possibly Discord, where you're going to have whoever is speaking, their video feed pops up. That might be a little bit messy, but yeah, I see it evolving. I don't know if I see myself using it yet.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? So I was thinking about, how much more we can share with this particular update, to what degree, because we're not we're using Twitter or X, whatever you decide to call it. We're using it to check for news and updates on certain things, right? But outside of that, even when I saw the update, and I did see Major Nelson, actually, talk about it, but I don't know if he was actually using video when he was talking about it in a recent broadcast that he did on X. So my thing is, since we're doing video here, or we're doing video on Discord, if we have conversations there, of course, TikTok and all the other platforms. Outside of that, I don't know if there's a real draw for me to invest that time over on X right now. But I'm going to be fair when it comes to what they're doing for live streaming right now. I think that it is shaping up to be something really, really dope. So if individuals are considering, because I'm not going to beat up Twitter that much, because I think they're doing some dope things too. So if individuals are considering streaming on that particular platform, uh, rather than using a YouTube or a TikTok or something like that, I think it's perfectly okay, because they are doing some dope things on Twitter as well. So will I use that particular format as far as the video portion? Right now, I may just test it once it's released to everyone, but it's not going to be a main thing that I'm going to use on the platform, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I can't see it either. I mean, I know the end goal for Musk is that X turns into this one-stop shop for everything. Um, I'm not drawn to it. I'm not opening it up as often as I used to. Um, I know that they just re-released what was TweetDeck back to X, but now it's kind of like behind his little paywall. And
It's
I'm
on
like,
paywall. That's right.
I don't want to be behind a paywall. I don't want to pay $16 a
Right.
month. I already have too many subscription services. So, right now the whole video in Spaces is available only on iOS, I believe. Android, I don't think I saw a date anywhere for it yet. Will I go and check it out? Yeah, of course I will. I mean, something new that's being offered, I'll go and check it out. But right now, I cannot see the need or use for it at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. So when it comes to an individual that we consider one of the greatest game creators of all time, I think that's where we are, right? We have to talk about Hideo Kojima, of course. We recently watched a documentary. We'll give some light impressions as it relates to this particular documentary, but I think that if you ever, plug in to any conversations that we have, whether we have it here or you're subscribed to the podcast, we speak extremely highly of Hideo Kojima. So, what did you think of the documentary when you watched it?
Light impressions, I think, is where I'll have my most impressions.
Okay,
based
go
on
ahead.
it. Um, I loved it. There was a lot of things. I think it's like about an hour long. It's on Disney Plus right now. Um, and Yeah, it was really recorded during the time where he was creating Death Stranding, and I do not take it as a documentary or making of Death Stranding. I take it more as the making of and starting of Hideo Kojima games. That's what it is. Yes, his first game had to be Death Stranding. When they're recording this, it happens to be a lot of Death Stranding and seeing his where his mind is at. But I think as a creative, it's very interesting to hear him speak on certain things on where he was in the creative process and where he was in wanting to take on this venture, and then Sony giving him a chance and like, we will back you, we got you. um i think I think Sony just happened to be that first studio that really just jumped in front of it. I believe that if Xbox would have gotten there first, they would have been like, we'll back you. But Sony happened to get there. Heck, I think even if Nintendo was there, I think Nintendo would have like,
Right.
no, 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 we would like to play.
Exactly.
I think
Exactly.
they would have showed up with their like Nintendo. No, no, we would like to play with you, Hideo Kojima. You live right next door to us. We're here. But no, it just happened to be Sony, which kind of makes sense because I feel like he had probably the stronger relationship with them at that time. I In the beginning of it, he did say that when you see the title or the opening of any game that says a Hideo Kojima games, it means they do not cut corners. They
Right.
cannot cut corners. So I don't know if that really means like I am working my people to the bones, or I will give my people the time to make the game that I envisioned. And to see him so hands on in every aspect of him creating this and bringing it to life and showing them, like, this is what I have envisioned. And it's very interesting that people had so much faith, even though they had no idea what he was talking about, what it was about, or where it was starting and where it was ending, and only really discovering that as they were going through this process with him. Like, he had the entire vision in his head, he knew what he wanted and he knew how to put it out there. It's just that bringing people along for that ride to try to figure it out was such really interesting, because that's the same thing when we saw the trailer for it, saw the trailer, everything leading up to the release of the game was the same thing for all of us. It's like, what is this about? Like the trailers never answered questions, it left you with more in
Right.
this curiosity. And I think that's a beautiful thing about art in general, is that how you perceive it is just, it's up to your personal experience. And that's how the trailers came across, that's how the game came across. And I definitely learned a new word in this documentary, because it stated that Hideo Kojima is the widely regarded as the first auteur, I think that is Auteur, of video games. And basically, I had to go and Google that up because I didn't know what that word meant. But the definition says a filmmaker whose personal influence and artistic control over a movie are so great that the filmmaker is regarded as the author of the movie, which is pretty much Hideo Kojima. So for them to say that he is regarded as the first auteur of video games is like spot on. Like, he is so hands on, and that just thinking about, even though this was recorded, um, like 5 years ago, 5 6 years ago, now to see what other games he has announced that he's coming out. You have like a couple games that he's teased already, and what that means and where his creative process is going with that. But if not only just that, it's very interesting because I think he also joked that he didn't want to predict anything else more in the future, because clearly Death Stranding was before COVID, and how those two aligned is so eerily, I guess, coincidental, because the game to him was all about people finding ways to connect, having these strands, even though you cannot see the other player, they are there, you're helping each other, you're being a part of something. And then we had COVID, where we're all just trying to find ways to connect with people when we couldn't. So it like to him, I think he also stated that, a lot of games came across as political statements, or that war games made him feel uncomfortable because his family experienced war, and that like in his games he wants it to be more anti-war, anti-nuclear, and that he wanted to utilize, his games to create this closeness to it. There was just a lot of stuff that I found so incredibly beautiful, even talking about, him as a child, going to these fairs, going to these world fairs, and seeing the advancements of technologies. And that back then, in like, the 70s, when they brought these like new technology that was coming out in the world during that time, it was meant to bring people together. Whereas now we are in 2024, and it's more so that our technology doesn't necessarily bring us together. Yes, it can, but it's also left a lot of people isolated. It pushes people more out of our life rather than into our lives. So he wants his to bring people together and connect the world, which is a very beautiful, beautiful thing. And the just see the whole process. I believe it's he said in there that it was like 3 years, 9 months for them to create, the gold master disc for Death Stranding. And there was stuff. I think it was Guillermo that was in there that said something along the line. Um, Art isn't to please; it's to inspire you. And art is strong enough; it's prophetic. And I was like, there are so many great quotes in here and inspiration in this 1 hour video that I actually watched it 3 times. And
I'm
I
not
think,
surprised by that.
yeah, it was so good. It was so
It
good. And
was good.
it's not even just, just hearing or watching the process and the team at Kojima Games, or watching Kojima-san, and how he just loves art, he loves music, he loves movies, and how he can tie that into games and experiences to share with everybody. I think it's just this artistic, creative sense that I just really loved about it. And that I think at the ending, I'm not quite sure. It's amazing. I watched it 3 times, and I'm not 100% sure who said it, but it was pretty much like, if you lose that singular vision, we lose part of our humanity. And if
Mm.
you're true to yourself and humanity, your heart and soul will always beat for the future. Like, how how can that not inspire you? How can you not just sit there and think about that and apply that to your life, apply that to whatever art form? Like, I am a very I believe that as a content creator, regardless of what type of content that you're creating, or what niche that you're in for being creative, like, you can apply that to yourself, and like just really think about that. Like, what is the message? What is your purpose in creating your art, your content? What do you want it to represent of you? And what do you want it to do for other people? So yes. Long
You
story
got
short,
more?
go
You
and
got
watch
more?
it.
Nah, long story long, because I mean I know we're super fans here when it comes to Hideo Kojima's work and things of that nature. But no, feel free to share. I mean, I know that even when I was watching it personally, it was more of a lot of movies were watched, a lot of books were read, and I'm inspired to even do that more this year than ever. Like, not just creating, different experiences, which we'll talk about later, but definitely reading more and making the conscious effort to do it every day, without any breaks, because, the more we read, the better we are, when it comes to creative stuff. But any more on that? Any more on Hideo stuff?
I want more suggestions. I know he always posts his suggestions for movies and music. I think I want to know more about the books that he recommends too. Because I don't think he just reads only self-help books. I believe he reads all sorts of material to, inspire him. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'll read anything. Actually, except for this one book I'm kind of struggling through, but I'll get through it.
Which
But
which book is that? Now that you brought it up, you might as well give us an idea which book that you're referring to. Which one are you talking
this
about?
one,
Second. Oh, okay. Interesting.
Right. So if you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, same guy. But my problem with this book, because I can't believe this is turning to a book review now. He
Well,
references Rich Dad Poor Dad so often on this. You might have just read that book and just stick with that book. Like, I mean, it's
interesting.
not terrible. But just go read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so it's interesting because I remember there was one scene in the documentary where they showed a lot of books, and Hideo Kojima was looking through all the books, on the shelf, and I'm like, yeah, this is, if I want to take anything that I'm doing to the next level, one thing I definitely need to focus on this year is to, you know, read more for sure, some amazing books, watch some incredible documentaries, listen to some incredible podcasts, by way of interviews and those type of stories. And I think that those things are going to make, us, individually and collectively, much, much better than we were yesterday. And I think that I think that's essential. And I think that's needed, especially with where we are today, how information is disseminated and, how we're pulled to certain networks, if that's your thing. But I really like the independent creators that are talking about, a lot of things in the world today. So that's definitely my focus when it comes to consuming information on the internet. If we're still calling it that, right? Because it's crazy out there. It is crazy out there. So yes, I did enjoy that. Definitely watch it. It is on Disney Plus. Hideo Kojima Connecting Worlds documentary. Absolutely amazing. Final thoughts there?
No, just go watch it.
just just go watch it. Next thing that we have is Ghost of Tsushima, PC port news coming next week. I'm not surprised by that news. Any thoughts there?
No, I'm not surprised either. I mean, we knew it was coming, along with the other PlayStation exclusives. Eventually, they'll come too.
Exactly, exactly. All the games that we're waiting for. I'm waiting for Spider-Man to show up. Ghost of Tsushima. It's a beautiful game. Not necessarily on top of my list when it comes to PC ports. We did get God of War and some other titles. So I'm looking forward for some more titles there. But definitely Spider-Man. Definitely Spider-Man is on top of my list when it comes to that stuff. Xbox partner preview broadcast announced for this week. I believe that's going to be Wednesday, and I'm down to record something about that. If you're available, just let me know. We'll talk about that. On the back end. Are you looking forward to anything in particular for Xbox this year, Daniela? Anything?
I don't know. For this year, I
Yeah.
can't say anything for this partner preview. For this year, I predict we're gonna get some teasers about the next, like, the second half, like the next refresher of the Xbox series. Um, Not the next gen, just the next upgrade to their current lineup. I expect that by the end of this year. However, like, I don't know. I don't know. Anytime anybody mentions Xbox to me, the only thing, like, I know it's a far shot and it'll probably never happen, but till I'm blue in the face and they officially, like, Xbox tells me stop asking for it, Scalebound. I would really, really like to see the revival of Scalebound. I would have loved to see what that game was going to be about. That's it. Like, anytime somebody wants to ask me about anything Xbox, it's just that.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. I'm not looking anything in particular for Xbox, but I'm definitely excited to watch the partner preview. I think now I'm really trying to go in as someone who is experiencing these systems and these ecosystems for the first time. I'm trying not to prejudge. I'm trying to go in and just enjoy the experience, especially the fact that you think about where we were in the 80s to where we are now and how we're communicating, with individuals, the crossplay stuff and all the technologies that we have available to us to enjoy these titles where every game was, a particular amount of money that you had to pay for. And now you can play a game for free. The demos are extensive, right? all over the place. Every other quarter, we're getting a whole bunch of demos, for the Steam stuff. So I think that we're at a place now where we enjoy a lot of titles. And when it comes to even the prices that we're getting them for, especially when it comes to deals, $8 here, $4 there for a game that's like 59.99 or 49.99. Then you have the Helldivers thing still going crazy, right?
Yeah.
39.99, right? So definitely mentioning that for sure. So there's a lot to be excited about when it comes to the industry, and I'm trying not to be jaded or spoiled when it comes to my mindset when I'm looking at the stuff that's happening in the space. So that's where I'm at, with that. So Xbox Partner Pro Preview program, that's Wednesday, I believe. I'll definitely be watching that. And at some point, I'm sure we'll share our thoughts and impressions, with that particular thing. So a couple of more things, and then we'll wrap up. But before we do, Last of Us director Neil Druckmann says he doesn't think he has many more big games left in him. Danielle, any thoughts there?
It's very interesting because I think Neil Druckmann also has a great creative mind. I mean, he's also like person behind, Uncharted, obviously The Last of Us, and then the TV series, and then he possibly has a whole other, another chapter to continue on The Last of Us. Um, Hi there, Majestic. Um, to to see that he's like, okay, I'm a little bit burnt out. I'm a little bit tired. Whereas I think Hideo was like, no, no, no. I have all of these.
Keep
It's
going till
coming
I
out of my
die.
mind. I'm just gonna keep on going, and we're gonna
Right.
keep making these and making my visions come true. Is very interesting. But I think at the same time, different spectrums of that kind of burnout. Whereas Kojima was, with Konami for so long, and his visions was very restricted. He had these ideas, and there'd be like, no, that like going back to the documentary, he had these ideas, but he didn't want to tell anybody. He was just like, just trust me to make this. And they're like, if you're not going to tell us what it is, we can't give you the money.
Right.
Whereas when he was given that freedom to go and do what he wants, and we're like, we'll give you the money, you don't have to tell us. That's a whole different spectrum, because when you have that freedom, yes, you want to be creative, you want to create all these things. I feel like Hideo has so much more to offer. And Neil Druckmann, who was also a very brilliant and creative mind, who has been very structured in creating just these specific type of games, and this, I can see where that burnout comes from. But he also states that he doesn't think that he's going to be, you know, completely out of the creative process. He wants to still create something. What that may be, I don't think it really states. Um, it could still be games. It could still, like, maybe he opens up a smaller indie studio where it's not so much pressure, and he gets to create fun games. And that's, I think, when people even like David Vonderhaar for the Call of Duty, his co-op game, like, you kind of want people to have that freedom, because even me, I don't have my 9 to 5 job is not you know a gaming job, but being there for 19 years, I can feel that, like, I just want to go and do what I want to do. And I think after so many, like, after a couple decades, anybody can feel that way. Anybody
Yeah,
can be like,
100%.
I'm tired. I'm glad I have fun creating this. I love that people love it, but it's not mine. You know, it's somebody else's idea that I'm building off of. I want something that's mine.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. So my thing is, we shared, in previous podcasts, links in the description below, that when it comes to stuff that comes out from Neil and the team, the only thing I'm really looking forward to really is a Uncharted multiplayer experience on PC. If I get that, I think I'm going to be extremely happy, because there was something special about that. I felt like it was like a lightning in a bottle situation when I played the Uncharted multiplayer, and it was extremely, extremely fun. So hopefully we get something like that. I know I've mentioned it before. I guess that's a wish list thing for me at this point. I'd love to see them actually bring that out. So would it be tough to do that? What's keeping them from doing that? Is it a server thing, right? We don't know, right? But I think I do agree with you when it comes to creating smaller projects, or becoming an advisor, to other projects, and things of that nature. I could see that happening with Neil Druckmann, and of course, when one person leaves, you tend to see, like, some other individuals follow to do their own thing, out of the door of that particular studio, whatever the studio is. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of years. I would say the next 2 to 3 years, things are shifting. Things are shifting. I know this is like a crazy angle. I'll go with it though. Things have been shifting, either even in the controller space, right? Because a year and a half ago, or just under 2 years, we were talking about, hey, if these controllers keep drifting, no one's buying controllers. And then in a span of 6 to 8 months, every company, it seems like, under the sun, started putting Hall effects in their controllers. So things are shifting for not just the individuals who are doing the software, it also is changing for the individuals who are doing the hardware as well. So whatever he does, I'm sure is going to be great. As you said, he does have a great mind. So I'm looking forward to what's next, but not yet, because I think there's still stuff that needs to be done in the Last of Us universe. So we'll see.
I wouldn't be surprised since they are working so closely for the Last of Us TV series that maybe, being an executive producer or director um could be in that potential list of other creative outlets.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be fun. And I do need to finish Last of Us TV series. I need to stop there's so many beautiful distractions. You got Avatar that's out now. You got, like, a whole bunch of stuff, that we have that we can watch. So yeah, I need to buckle down and definitely check that out, for sure. So we're talking about being creative. We're talking about creating things. We're talking about being better. And the other thing too, as far as, like, even the creative process, changing the world, adding depth, or maybe doing an unlock for someone that's going to change their perspective. So, you know, we try to do that individually and collectively. I started writing books, very recently. I would say a year or two ago, give or take. I released Podcasting What You Should Know, links in the description below. Then I released all the poems that I had in the 90s. We published that, which I was extremely excited about. Then I did the Stoic Philosophy book, which I'm incredibly proud of how that came out. But there was one thing that we talked about behind closed doors, if you want to say that, that I haven't really shared publicly yet, right? And I think this thing is going to change a lot for people. And I think it's going to unlock a lot of things for them, because I think that's the first time I'm going to share my particular experience, how I got excommunicated from a church that I was part of for 18 years, right? And I think that story, coupled with the fact that it dealt with narcissism and all the things that I learned after that happened in 2021, that's going to be an incredible story to tell, and how it's going to be presented to the world. I'm looking forward to that. We're already 30 pages in. So we're in the process of writing that. A lot of terms that people should know, very digestible, a book. And I think it's going to have, terms that people have heard of before, gaslighting, breadcrumbing, the narcissistic abuse, cycle, future faking. What does that mean? And all those terms are going to be easily digestible. And one of the things that I want to do, or give by way of a preview, is going to be every chapter is going to be, how does this show up at home? How does this show up at work? How does this show up in church and business? And I think there's one more. And I think every chapter is laid out in such a way where, if you didn't know that this was what was going on, then you're going to quickly be able to identify it, because they're going to lay out for every single, place that we tend to go. We're home. How does that happen? And I think that, that structure is going to make it easily digestible for anybody to read that. So I'm excited about that. I'm extremely excited about that.
I'm gonna say I wish you had this book out before my last two relationships. Just saying. Because I
My
don't
bad.
know how to identify narcissism. And it's something I
Mm,
had to learn after the fact of like, oh, that's what that is.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
still don't wrap my brain around it. But um I think even in the creator space, learning to avoid people like that and seeing those signs can save so much trouble.
Yeah,
Which
100%.
I think there are some people in the creative space that kind of have those tendencies, not as bad as some others, but I think, for personal mental health and your boundaries, I think it'll be a good material and book to read.
No,
I
I
would read it.
appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so if you made it this far in the stream and the video, I have my newsletter in the description. Definitely tap into that. I'm going to be giving some timely updates as it relates to when the book is going to be closer to launch. So the newsletter is in the description for that. And yeah, super excited about that. I think it's I should stop saying I think. I know it's going to be an unlock for a lot of people. So if you are looking for a book that can unlock and raise your awareness when it comes to narcissism and how to deal with narcissistic people, this is going to be incredible, and I'm looking forward to it. So that's what's going on there. Last but not least, we try to find a way and most of the episodes to talk about my favorite game, right? So Destiny 2 Guardian Games returns this week. One thing that they did that was really interesting is during the Destiny 2 campaign, the Lightfall campaign, some of the characters were riding these hoverboards like Silver Surfer, right? And these hoverboards were pretty cool. And I'm like, at what point are we ever going to get, something like that? I know we have like the sparrows and stuff like that. They're cool, but now they're releasing these hoverboard types of things for all guardians who play the game. So that's going to be pretty interesting. I may do some captures of that, just riding around the different worlds and Destiny 2. So Guardian Games, there's always the thing of who's going to win the Guardian Games this year. I'm biased. I'm a hunter, so hunters are the best, and you can't tell me anything other than that. So there's going to be. I posted something on Twitter about that, and man, I started getting a little bit of hate, but that's just the nature of it. Warlocks say they're the best. Titans say they're the best. I'm a hunter, so I'm going to say the hunters are the best. So, any news bits that you want to add or things that you saw briefly this week before we wrap?
Um, no, I don't think so.
Okay,
There's a lot of stuff that I want to watch. I really
a
want to.
lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff. I I am such a disappointment to myself as a nerd. Like I haven't been able to watch Dune, the first one, part one
Mm,
yet. And like I was working in Oahu last week and I'm like, oh, it comes out on Thursday. I will be here. Okay, we have to watch it. Did not watch Dune 1 so that I could watch part 2.
yeah, for sure. Now, part one, where's that?
Um, I believe it's on HBO.
Okay, okay.
I
Was
believe. I
it
hope it is.
was it rated good?
I think so.
Okay.
I believe
Well,
so. I'm gonna believe anything that Zendaya is put in is rated like off the chart.
okay, fair enough. I guess I just want to reiterate a couple of things before we close out with socials. Xbox partner preview. That's this week. I believe that's Wednesday. Destiny 2 has updates this week regarding games. Definitely wanted to mention that again. And yeah, this was a great episode. This was 660. Daniela, where can they find you?
You find me on all the socials at Miss DJM. And Andrew, where can they find you?
You can find me at Uriah, Uriyya, but you can find me here since you're watching and listening. All the links are in the description below. And until next time, we'll see you.
Bye.